All right, this is one of the many mini lectures that we're trying as a supplement in this new era of online instruction due to the virus. So this is going to be a little bit short. This is going to be a little bit kind of all around, jumping around to a few different points. But the basic idea is to try to get the point across in a few things. So first off, the topic for this one is Herbert Hoover, the New Deal, and the movement towards FDR's election in the New Deal. So first things first. Herbert Hoover has a pretty terrible reputation today as a former president of the United States. And strangely enough, when he was elected president, Herbert Hoover was seen as a very strong candidate. I believe the phrase that was used was he was the master of calamities. He was in the first graduating class at Stanford. He was a mining efficiency expert, an engineer who made a great deal of money in the international mining community, and someone who, by the early 19 teens and the First World War era, had gotten involved in global philanthropy and was well regarded in the international economic community. He's involved helping to lead the American economy in the 1920s, and is really seen as a good advocate for this more pro-business, pro-associationalism policies, or series of associationalism policies. Most texts describe him as a laissez-faire advocate. Generally, that would mean, sort of let the market decide broadly. But the other thing that he really kind of pushed for was this idea of the government has a role to play, but the government should just sort of get private, entities to come together themselves to create their own organizations that in the time of crisis they can provide assistance for folks. And there's positives and negatives to that, but Hoover was a big believer in it. Now, when the market begins crashing in 1929, and you get the major crashes and then the decline of the market and the start of the Great Depression, Hoover doesn't particularly express a great deal of activism here. And, even at one point, I think, utters a phrase, wasn't that depression horrible, or something like that. So, not a lot of aggressive action coming from the White House, someone who doesn't particularly believe that government has a very activist role to play. But by 1930-31, of course, the conditions have become rather dire for a number of people. This is both true in the U.S. as it is globally. So early 1930s is a trying time in an international context. We should keep in mind that the effects of the First World War, the global influenza pandemic then, had led to a lot of changes in political order globally. You saw the rise of Stalin and of the Soviet Union. You saw the rise of Benito Mussolini and his fascist thugs in Italy. And in 1933, you saw the election of Adolf Hitler, with a very small percentage of the vote, but he ends up taking power. So this is a time period in which folks are anxious, folks are concerned, and they're turning to individuals who they think are going to provide stability, they think are going to provide order, they're going to sort of give them a pathway forward. Fast forward to spring of 1932. Hoover has done very little. Unemployment numbers are very high. Hoover scholars and others will say that he starts this Reconstruction Finance Corporation. He tries to get things going, at least towards the last year or so of his presidency, but he also bungles other things. You've got the bonus marchers, which happened in early 1932. You've got World War I veterans who are supposed to be paid a bonus effective in 1945. They march on Washington, D.C. Hoover calls the army out on them. Again, imagine if they had Twitter. It would be interesting. Either way, he still gets the nomination. But he loses. He loses to Franklin Roosevelt in the election in 1932. And Roosevelt and his New Deal and progressive activism really are going to start to change things. That's the focus of our next lecture.